Geoff, can we talk about the budget for FRAY? I understand you financed it through various jobs.
Yeah, yeah. So I was kind of fortunate. After I did the short film, the little experiment for FRAY, we literally wrapped that on the day that the housing market and Lehman collapsed,
Wow.
which was a terrible time to just spend your meager savings on a film and then not have a job for 6 months. And so, but I was kind of fortunate in a way that after those 6 months, when companies started hiring again, they didn't have the budgets to go with the big ad agencies. And I had a couple of my fashion clients that were like, well, this Geoff guy that's been doing our, internals and our in-store videos, his stuff's basically as good as the agencies we hire. Let's just have him do our commercials. And so I kind of got really lucky. Started landing a couple of, they were hiring me at much less than what they would hire for a big production company or an agency. But for me, it was a lot. And so I was able to put away some savings over the course of about 2 years and was able to pull it off. And then also just lucky, I wrote it with Brian in mind. He and I had done the short film and we'd known each other a while. Knowing, that I had Jaron as my cinematographer on it, who, obviously is one of the best cinematographers of this generation. I've always felt that way. Fortunately, he's kind of gotten there now. Having Jody as the producer, had a great circle of friends that brought it to life. And then shooting in Oregon was a huge help too. It was a lot of people there. One, they believed in the story. They really believed in what we were trying to do with it. So we got, we got people. All the cars for the film were donated to us. All the locations, with the exception of 2, we got for free. We got the wood mill for free. We just had to have insurance. Just so much we were able to get, and people were so helpful with it. The employment agency scene, actually, when we were talking to the woman who owned that actual employment agency, she said that if we needed extras, she would reach out to her network of people who were looking for work. So that's how we were able to get so many extras for the film. It was just, yeah, so in terms of like pulling it off for a smaller budget, it was, it just took a lot of favors, but like I said, because I had that commercial world, our budget on that was probably the craft services budget for like an A24 film. But it was still enough that we were able to pull off something with all those other people really putting their heart and soul into it. And one of my proudest things about that was so many of the local people that worked on it, it did end up elevating their careers. Some of them, it was their first film they'd ever worked on. And I wrote everybody a letter of recommendation for whatever they wanted to do. Because I'm like, if you worked on this film, you had your hands in every department. So, there were entire days where it was literally myself, Jaron, Brian, whoever the other actor was, and Matt, who was a PA. Like, that was the entirety of our production. It was just, it was 3 people and 2 actors or 3 actors at a time for days on end. So it was everybody on it just put in so much, and so a lot of their careers got elevated by it, which was so great to see, because we've all worked on no budget films that when we're done with, like, well, that was a waste of 3 days or 5 days or whatever. So knowing that the people that came on board were able to go on and do more afterwards, and were elevated by this film, was just something I was really proud of as well, because it's a hard industry, so being able to help lift others up is a good feeling.
So you knew how much you had in this bank account or bank accounts or whatever. When you started to dip past a certain point,
Yeah.
and maybe the clock was ticking, what was your mindset?
When the funds were running low, it was nerve-wracking. Had to compartmentalize, because the anxiety meltdown that was happening, you just put that in this box over here, and this box over here is like, well, if you don't finish the film, then you just ruined your life for nothing. So it was, and we took a 3-day hiatus because I had a client that wanted me to do a commercial, little web commercial, and it was like, yeah, we'll put it on hiatus. Like, literally took the last of the money I had and gave it to Jaron, who was stuck in Portland for 3 days while I was away, and you know, basically went back to New York, did a shoot, then flew right back. I didn't get paid for it for another month, but at least had that coming in. And then really grateful, Marissa, the lead actress in it, her parents gave, I should remember this, I think it was $2,000 to us to help out. My own parents threw in $1,000 and helped cover some of the hotel costs for us. So, you know, I was fortunate, like family and friends really pitched in. My girlfriend at the time, Kim, she set up a PayPal account where people could make donations. That helped bring a couple $100 more in. Just really just crawled across the finish line. And then when we wrapped, you know, got back to New York and just took like the next 3 months just doing as much client work as I could, because I wasn't going to have a home for much longer if I didn't, and I didn't want art to, or life to imitate art that much. So
it sounds like it was kind of raw out of the gate, and then piecemeal at the end.
It was.
And that's kind of how you finished it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, definitely we knew. I mean, the budget was so small, and I guess at this point I can say, I mean, we literally went into this shoot with just over $20,000. Obviously we spent a lot more over the course of the film, but that was what we were starting with on it, and that's not a lot. That doesn't stretch very far when you got to fly some cast and crew out to New York and house them and feed them, or out from New York to Oregon, house and feed them, transportation, all logistical costs, and you know, it was just some other checks would come in from projects I'd done a few months before, add that to the budget. And again, my girlfriend at the time, Kim, she was managing all the finances. She would watch my bank account and tell me where I was at, and she'd be like, "You guys need to spend less money on coffee." I'm like, can't. That's not a compromise we can make.
Right, especially not in Oregon.
No, the coffee's so good.
Aren't they comparable to Seattle?
Yeah. There was a place that we were just hooked on, and Brian still talks about it to this day. He's like, I want to go back for their coffee. Yeah, it was intense, that's for sure. Every dollar on that one mattered. I mean, all the wardrobe that we bought came from Goodwill. You know, again, and just every favor we could get was just essential. I mean, if we hadn't gotten all the favors we had gotten, there's no way that film would have happened. So.
And sorry, you shot right before the actual quote-unquote meltdown, the Lehman Brothers?
That was the short film, Pour, the one that I did as an experiment for FRAY. So that was right before that meltdown. So I guess I was ahead of the curve in terms of talking about, you know, just financial precarity. And obviously it inspired the script in this one, you know, thus why Marissa's character is a teacher of morals and economics. I forget the specific term, which is terrible, but yeah, so, you know, wedge that in there in terms of as a way to discuss some of those higher ideas without being too heavy-handed, I hope. But yeah, I was definitely heavily inspired by that because, you know, it's so easy to fall through the cracks. As an artist, I've seen it, you know, as a freelancer and an artist, you know, it's feast or famine. Sometimes things are great, and then, you know, buy a new set of lenses, and then you don't get a job for 6 months. You're like, oh God, that was a stupid choice. And so, you know, I know how easy it is. And granted, for me, a lot of those financial decisions are not essentials. A set of lenses isn't an essential. It's a good business investment. I mean, I've used the same set of lenses now for 6-7 years, and they're gorgeous. Same with camera, you know, drop 20-30 grand on a camera. That's a lot of money. That's, you know, it's a new car, a nice new car and all of that, but that pays itself back over time. Yet those are still expenses that are huge, and, you know, you hit a dry spell with work and then you're just like, oh God, I'm not gonna be able to make rent now. So those are all things that I took from my experiences over the years and try to work into it and make it feel authentic. You know, I can see how somebody could easily just tire of the rat race and just that constant trying to keep your head above water and just step out. Like, I'm gonna go live in the woods. I'm gonna go sleep under a bridge. I'm not gonna stress it. There was even a homeless gentleman who used to sleep in my subway station that every now and then I'd come home with a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey or something like that, and we'd sit on the bench on the subway platform and just chat. And he was that way. He said he just got tired of trying to survive because he's like, this isn't an easy life, but at least I don't have the worries that I had. And so wanted to bring that to it, is just that idea of the struggle, just the day-to-day struggle that so many people face and don't have a way out of. I feel so fortunate that as a filmmaker that I can go and do a commercial and live off of that for a month or 2 or 3 months, and then go back to my writing and my editing and stuff like that. Like, that's such a luxury to be able to have that most people don't have that ability to get that magical check. That's what the lottery's so popular for. And so, yeah, I just wanted to try and express that in a film and show to people who may be a little bit more fortunate that it's really easy for people to lose their grip and give up hope.